used to be quite the kleptomaniac when I was in middle school, but one event made me rethink my life of petty crime. At the peak of my breaking and entering phase, I'd gotten my hands on a skeleton key lockpick set. A janitor had left it lying around, and I decided to help myself to the unattended shiny object. Within that same month, I checked out a lockpicking book at our local library, then successfully broke into the library after hours using the newfound knowledge I'd recently possessed. The alarms went off right as I opened the door, so I ended up having to hightail it out of there. One night I was riding my bike in town, and it was like some kind of energy had forced my fingers down on the brakes. My tire screeched to a stop in front of a big red door. I dropped my bike right there on the sidewalk and approached the door. A plastic closed sign was hanging on the glass part of the door, and just above it, on the building itself, was a larger neon sign, which was turned off, and it read Psychic. Inside the front area was dark, but I could see that there were lights on further back in the shop. I carefully looked at the keyhole and decided what picking technique would be needed. As soon as the block got quiet and I had a moment without prying eyes, I pulled out my lockpicking set. But as soon as I put the first pick into the hole, the door opened. I didn't know if I had just gotten lucky or if the door had already been unlocked. Regardless, I opened it just enough to slip my hand in and feel for a bell. There was none, so I opened the door up just a bit more and slid in, closing it behind me. I knew I had to be quick. This wasn't a perusing visit. There was a clear crystal ball sitting on a table, in a cash box under the front desk. I took both and ran out back, not worrying about the existence of a bell this time, and nobody followed in pursuit. I got on my bike and pedaled harder than I needed to escape the crime scene. When I got home, I brought the crystal ball and cash box into my room. It was locked, but my skeleton key picked it open swiftly. To my disappointment, there were only a few ones and some change in the bottom. I was planning on selling the crystal ball at a pawn shop the next day. By this time of night, all the businesses were closed. But when I woke up the next day, the cash box and the crystal ball were gone. I looked everywhere. Originally, I thought my mom had grabbed it, but she hadn't returned home from work yet. It was baffling. Then a few days later, I was riding my bike past the same psychic shop when I saw something that almost made me crash. Hanging in one of the shop windows was a black and white printout of my school photo. Obviously, I couldn't go in there. I mean, I'd broken in, and even if the door was unlocked, I'd stolen from the place, and they clearly knew it. I picked up my bike and decided I needed to get out of there ASAP, but part of me just had to know. Was the crystal ball inside? Where else would it be? I cased the building to see if there was a way that I could walk up to it unnoticed, just to peek inside one of those windows and see for myself. I found a decent way on the left side of the building. There was a wall of trees lining each side of the lawn, and they stopped where the building started. I could walk behind the trees and discreetly look inside the window. As I approached the side window, but before I was fully in front of it, I saw another black and white school photo of myself plastered to the window. It wasn't just one. They were lining the whole sleet of windows down the left side of the building. I was officially sweating, and the presence of the crystal ball was no longer important to me. I was sure that it was there, and I was sure I needed to leave. It was literally that moment that I decided to take a more honest path in life. I destroyed and tossed the skeleton key, silently vowing to never steal again. I couldn't avoid the shop forever. Taking a different street added a whole heck of a lot of unnecessary time to my route. But the next time I rode past, my photos were taken down. The shop isn't there anymore, and though I'm grateful for the experience in the long run, the entire thing, including the building, but mainly the experience, still creeps me out. This story took place during the summer of 2008, when my best friend got her license and we got our first taste of freedom, but we were also major assholes. There's going to be times you think to yourself, wow, what sorry little shits. Just know that I agree, and that karma is going to slap us with spiked stupid sticks. So on our first day of riding around, Raina and I basically circled town for hours while listening to music. At one point, we got behind a truck with one of those pink cancer ribbon magnets on the tailgate. Raina's aunt had breast cancer, so she wanted one for her car too. We figured they would have some at the mall, but we lived in a smaller town, so our mall had maybe 10 stores and a handful of kiosks. As we walked back to the car, I saw a cancer ribbon on a van parked a few spots down. So I said, "Oh look, they have the magnets here after all." Then I took it and stuck it on the back of Raina's truck. We were both utterly delighted. See, I told you we were little shits, and it gets so much worse. We had this weird little rush over stealing what was probably a $2 magnet and decided that we should try to collect all the different colors. For the rest of the day, we drove through various parking lots in search of these things. We got a few colors, but not the impressive rainbow display that we had imagined. When it started getting late, we decided to swing through Walmart one more time, and we were excited to find a camouflage ribbon. Incredibly pleased that our last stop was a success, I grabbed the new magnet off the black Ford truck. We looked around as we drove away, and no one seemed to be aware of our existence. We had never seen a camouflage ribbon before, but we live in the South. These people put camouflage on everything. By that age, I had seen at least 3 camo-themed weddings and knew more than a dozen guys that would answer camo when asked their favorite color. Most of the older kids at school had camo wraps around their trucks, for Christ's sake. We never considered that they would be associated with the military. Anyway, with the new addition to our collection, we returned to Raina's house where we lined our trophies across her truck. Now, Raina lived pretty far outside of town. When you finally turned onto her long, winding road, the last 5 miles turned to a dirt one-lane. If more than a single car came through at a time, one of you was pulling over. It was also a dead end, so we never really saw anyone except for a few neighbors. When Raina's parents saw the magnets, we said we bought a bundle pack, and that was that. I spent the night and we woke up the next morning, ready for another round of magnet hunting. Oh, and in case you're wondering, no, we didn't have anything better to do. We didn't have a movie theater in my town. Kids generally hung out in big empty fields gathered around a bonfire because there was literally nothing else. After breakfast, we got ready to leave. But when we got to her car, all the magnets were gone, stolen. Instead, an envelope was taped to the trunk in their place. Obviously, this was a depressing number of years ago, so I don't remember everything the letter contained word for word, but I promise this is pretty damn close. Yesterday, I exited Walmart to witness your vehicle stopped behind my truck. I was then shocked and frankly disgusted to witness the theft of the camouflage ribbon. You drove right past me, laughing, without realizing you'd been caught. You also failed to realize I followed you home. I saw your father in the front yard and almost stopped to retrieve my magnet right there. But then I saw the neat little row of ribbons across your truck, and I became even more enraged. I could not trust that your father would instill upon you the respect you so clearly lack. You see, those ribbons hold a very important significance to those who display them. Most signify cancer awareness, but mine, for example, was given to me when my wife was killed by an IED. The ribbons are a symbol, a sign of respect, a simple way to know we are not alone, and to show others they are not alone. But you tried to take that away from me. Why? I've taken not only my ribbon, but also those from your other victims. I originally intended to press charges since I have your license plate number and address, but then I realized such an act would make me a suspect should any harm befall you. Since I'm not finished teaching you a lesson, I felt this could become detrimental to my cause. See you soon. We were beyond terrified. We hadn't told anyone else about what we did, so we knew it wasn't a joke. We'd been so immersed in our little world, we hadn't even noticed the truck following us home. We also felt like absolute garbage for thinking the camo ribbons were just for rednecks. Obviously, we didn't go magnet hunting, but we didn't want to stay at Raina's house either, so we decided to go to mine, only we never made it. When heading to town, Raina's small dirt road didn't go straight to the highway. It came to a stop sign. And directly across from you was nothing but forest and a huge dead-end sign with a double arrow pointing left and right. Left took us to the highway, and right took us into an extremely dangerous neighborhood where the meth heads were known to do their cooking. We turned left, and a black truck suddenly pulled out from one of the meth head driveways and zoomed up behind us, riding our ass. It was the black truck. We immediately started crying. To this day, it's still the most terrifying moment of my life. He would get within inches of our bumper and then back off and do it again. He did it all the way to the stop sign, which led to a 65-mile-per-hour highway. Raina was so frightened that she didn't stop. She blew straight across the road to the other side without so much as looking. The other car that was barreling towards us laid on its horn and swerved to miss us. It couldn't have been by more than an inch. I looked back to see the truck sitting at the stop sign, safe and sound. The car that had narrowly avoided us was now stopped on the shoulder, but we were too afraid to turn around. I wouldn't let Raina drive to my house after that. I couldn't handle the thought of this guy finding out where I lived. I made her drive to the police station instead, and we spilled our sorry little guts, all while crying hysterically. Obviously, our parents were called and they were furious, but we didn't even care at that point. We just wanted to go home. The police seemed unsure how much of our story was accurate and how much of it was exaggerated, but we showed them the note, and that was real enough that each of us were followed home by a squad car, just to be safe. For the longest time, nothing else happened, but a few months later, we were in Raina's living room with the curtains open, and the truck drove to the end of the road and left again. It was the last time we ever saw it, but it made us wonder for the longest time, just how often did it drive by, and exactly when did it finally stop